Hi, my name is Elena Patton. Stained glass is used for many decorations in many abbeys. People have been making stained glass for centuries, and here are some of the methods and materials used to make these beautiful pieces of art. Methods that were used to make glass and ways to color glass have changed throughout the centuries, especially during the medieval time. And then I'm going to be talking about how it compares to today. Wood ash was commonly used back in the medieval period. It used silica sources that contain sand and quartz pebbles. They're located near abbeys, since abbeys used the glass more in stained glass decorations in the windows of churches. Wood ash is composed of tree ash. Trees can change what the content of the glass is based on where it grew, how it was cut, when it was cut, methods used to cut it, and a bunch of different methods used. Wood ash is the hardest to replicate due to the soil and methods used to keep tree parts is way different. The tree soil content was a lot harsher back then, being with more droughts. The methods used were more hand saws than electrical tools. Nowadays, natron is the most common form. It's like baking soda. It's a mixture of sodium. The way that this is used is that it adds into the sand and it just speeds up the process. None of these ratios are exact since it's just a hodgepodge of materials. The ratios change, but the materials stay the same with potassium, sodium, and calcium. Coloring glass usually involves an addition of metal to your sand mixture when making the glass and firing it. The components of the metal to the glass is different in each different colors. So for turquoise, you would add copper and tin. The pink and purple would be manganese content. And the longer you heat this color, the darker hue you will get. Light green is mainly oxidizing during the firing process. So you put in a normal piece of glass, or you're making glass with heating up sand. And during the molten process, instead of adding copper, tin, magnesium, other metal oxides to it, you would leave it alone, and the longer you heat it, the lighter it will get, or the darker, depending on your methods used. Wood ash allows for more hues of the glass compared to natron, just due to what's inside the ash and the trees used. The trees most commonly used are pines, oak, and beech trees. The type of tree gives off different ashes, which then add to a different hue in your color choices. The production of the colored glass usually involves the skills used, and the ratios are different throughout each color. So for turquoise, if you use 1 thing of copper to 2 things of tin, that might be different for another producer who uses 2 pieces of copper per 1 thing of tin. And that goes for the same with the other colors as well. Stained glass hasn't dramatically changed from the medieval times to now. The only main difference is the different ratios used, since it's harder to replicate even though we have the same exact trees of pine, beech, and oak. The different contents of the soil and how the trees were cut really makes a big difference in the contents of the glass. The methods used are similar. We still use wood ash, but now we most commonly use natron. The coloring of the glass is the same. Metal oxides are still added along with metal powders to the molten glass. The making of stained glass hasn't changed throughout the centuries, except since the techniques have stayed consistent, but the materials and the ratios have changed. The way stained glass is still made is through the process of heating up sand at a high temperature and then cooling it off very rapidly to form the glass. There's different techniques used. Now you can blow glass, you can make stained glass, you can make windows, and other different decorative pieces. Now the stained glass facilities aren't next to abbeys, since there's more transportation options today than in the medieval periods. So in the conclusion, stained glass hasn't dramatically changed compared to other different materials and building obstacles back in the medieval periods.